Hey, Madison, let's jump over to your work here. Okay, so listen, I'm just going to be really honest with you here. We have some problems here, and the problems stem from my last set of comments. And if you remember, my last set of comments were the consistency of the size of your letters and the way to preserve those letters. First of all, let me say, I think the letters look good. I think you're capturing what you're looking for. And I think that you're showing that you're designing with intent as opposed to arbitrarily making decisions that aren't associated with the conceptual meaning you've created through your word, your word maps, etc. So that's fantastic. The letter forms themselves, I think, that mechanically you're doing pretty good. As far as execution goes, and that's what I was saying before, is that we've got some problems here. And the main problem is the fact that there's no consistency in the size of your letters. So if I use the top of this as a straight edge, I'm just going to take the top of it, and I watch the top of this window right here. I'm going to place it on the baseline of your U and your W. Okay, and we can see that no other letter forms reside on the same baseline. That's an issue because we can clearly see that if we pull this cap B down to rest on the baseline, it's going to be much, much, much smaller than the cap U to U, or that's a V. The V and the W, it's going to be much, much smaller. So if you were to have a word that has a W and a B in it, or a U and a B, it's just going to look, it's not going to look right because the B is so much smaller than those other letter forms. My recommendation is to get these on a baseline. All right, let these letters all sit consistently on a baseline. Then you can adjust the size accordingly, because what you'll do after you have the baseline is you'll bring a cap height line up there, and then that'll ensure consistency on the actual size of the letters themselves. The next thing I'm seeing is a little bit of an inconsistency in the stroke weights. So we can see the visual weight with this P, right? Now, let's say we have this P next to a lowercase I and even a lowercase u. Okay, these little skinny letter forms are not going to stand up to this. It has so much visual weight to it that it's almost overwhelming. Same thing with the D, and some of those other closed counter letter forms are really, really weighty. So I would recommend you think about that. I'm not even sold that you need these closed counters in here, where you're closing down all these letter forms that have curves in them to a solid black with just that little kind of half moon. But that's okay. It seems to work. But my main thing is just consistency. Okay, the letters are of different thicknesses. They're of different stroke weights. And they're definitely a visual of differing visual weights. Also the size, and that can also, all of that can be considered to be okay depending on the intent of the typeface. But the difference in sizes is a very, very serious issue that most definitely needs to be addressed. I mean, we can see it over here too. Look at this tiny, tiny little X and put it next to, let's say, the B. We can clearly see the B is much larger. The X doesn't even reach the mean line. Okay, so those inconsistencies are going to count. So I would definitely recommend that you address those inconsistencies. And again, a good remedy here is to start by placing these on a common baseline, then drawing your mean line and your cap line and adjusting the size of your letters accordingly. A couple of issues with your letter forms. The lowercase f is the same as the uppercase f, and of course that's not how things work in the real world, right? Lowercase f is mechanically different, so you want to address that, definitely. Same thing with the uppercase k. It's the same as the lowercase k, so you'll definitely want to make those changes. The N, that's the same letter. The O, the P is the same. So you want to go through and make those changes. The U is the same. Just make sure there's some differences. So a lowercase u is not just the uppercase u that's smaller. It's designed a little bit differently, and I think that you should spend some time to try to go through these and determine which is the same as the uppercase and the lowercase, and then change the lowercase to reflect more of a design of a lowercase letter. For example, the top of the lowercase f is sometimes it's circular. So think about things like that. The letter character set for the letters looks fantastic. However, with these closed counters here, it seems like those little half moon shapes you have in the letter forms are much, much more prominent. Right here, they're just a little sliver, so that if shown at a smaller size, they're going to disappear anyways. See what I'm saying? So either make those bigger or eliminate them altogether. Okay, my final comment is I'm just wondering what the reasoning behind the decision to use a lowercase d for Dracula. I mean, it's a proper name. You should probably use a cap D in Dracula. All right? Okay, those are my comments moving forward, so I'd like to see those changes made for your final submission for this week's Milestone 3 task. And if you have any questions or if you need help or further clarification, please feel free to let me know. I'll be glad to provide. Thank you very much.